The alley was dark and damp, lit only by the light from Sarah's phone. She felt a chill. What had happened to her the night before? It was a mystery. Sarah tried to remember what she had done. A fun night at the bar with friends, nothing strange. Now she was shaking alone through the streets in the rain. She was heading towards her house. She remembered the shortcut through the woods and decided to cross. It was very cold. She saw something white shining. She looked again, but it had already disappeared. She continued back. This path reminded her of her childhood, when as a child she used to play hide and seek in the woods. I miss those days when the world wasn't a piece of waste. Her voice trailed off. Sarah heard the crack of a tree branch. Terrified, she began to run desperately through the forest. She stumbled and fell to the ground. She tried to get up, but it was too painful. She had sprained her ankle. "Someone please help me," she said aloud. She wanted to run away, but she couldn't. She closed her eyes, and when she opened them again, a tall, white-faced man in a suit stood before her. Sarah began to scream in terror, but was soon silenced. It was 4 o'clock. Jeff the killer had just finished what he called his daily rounds, and his clothes were bloody. He dragged his feet and went into his old house and sat down in an easy chair. Jeff was holding 2 bottles of whiskey. He had turned into a drunken killing machine. Jeff's brain turned wistful. He began to remember the night he killed his family. If it wasn't for his crazy instinct, he might have stopped. He still felt some remorse for taking the lives of the people he once loved. But his longing for death was a much stronger feeling. It was 5 in the morning. He took another sip of whiskey. But what am I doing sitting here? He left the house. The night was cold and wet. He took another sip from the bottle and felt a strange alert feeling. He looked towards the forest, checked that he had his knife with him, and began to move towards it. He knew something was not quite right. He was getting closer to the grove, but before entering, he noticed the cemetery. Again, melancholy knocked on his door. He decided to walk towards the pantheon. He stumbled a few times. He was too drunk. He entered among the tombs and stared at the flagstones without being able to read. Jeff began to feel uneasy, felt his throat go dry, the same alert feeling as before. He turned back towards the woods, his eyes settling on a tree. It looked like it had a small piece of paper hanging from a nail. His blurry eyes were unable to distinguish what was on it. Jeff slipped into the darkness slowly. Taking a sip from one of the whiskey bottles, he tried to see into the woods. Jeff admired the darkness. It was the perfect friend for a killer like him. He started to feel weird. He heard the rustling of the leaves. He felt that something was stalking him. "Who's there?" The screeching grew louder. "Come on, man, I don't like games, let alone hide and seek." A quick whisper was heard. Jeff saw some rats. Damn rats, they only serve to create plagues. The rain stopped slowly. The forest went completely silent, but a loud noise was building inside Jeff's head. The sound was so intense that he almost passed out. Jeff dropped the whiskey bottles on the floor that broke into thousands of pieces. He tried to focus in the dark, and he thought he saw a white object floating above him. It disappeared instantly. What the hell was that? "I've had too much to drink. There's nothing here." The sharp sound returned to torture his head. "Who are you?" There was no answer. He got up and started walking again. "Come out! Don't hide now! I'm going to cut down every tree until I find you." Blurry-eyed, Jeff pointed the knife at a tall, slender tree and stabbed into it. What he thought was a tree vanished into darkness. He looked again and discovered that what he had in front of him was not a tree. It was an extremely tall, skinny being dressed in a black suit. Jeff's drunkenness left suddenly. When he looked at his face, he found that he had no face. Jeff gave a nervous laugh. "So you were the one chasing me through the woods, huh? I don't know what you are, but you remind me of me. You have a white face like me. All you lack is a beautiful smile." Jeff started laughing uncontrollably. But his laughter stopped when one of his Slenderman's tentacles entered his ears. The intense pain began again. He took out his knife and began to stab him uselessly. The man moved as if teleporting. Slenderman and Jeff began to fight. Slenderman extended his tentacles to surround him. Jeff was trying to cut them with his knife. He managed to cut one of them, but it instantly regenerated quickly. Jeff got scared and fled in terror from the forest. That was the monster's territory. He could never defeat it there. He ran towards the first tree he had seen at first and quickly read the note that said, Don't enter this forest. A mysterious man known as a Slenderman has been seen in the area recently. If you enter, your life is in danger. Jeff hurried to the graveyard, hoping the entity couldn't get out of the woods. He was wrong. Slenderman was waiting for him among the graves. Jeff was filled with his psycho instincts and lunged at his enemy, throwing him. Jeff proceeded to slash the tentacles again. The white figure showed no emotion and began to fight with Jeff once more. As he was crushing Jeff against the graves, the knife slipped from his grasp and then, unfortunately, slid into his own stomach. Jeff was bleeding non-stop. He stood up angrily. "Is that the best you've got, Slendy? Show me what you know." Slenderman remained silent, but he didn't give up. He attacked him again. Jeff ripped the knife from his stomach and threw it straight at Slenderman. Jeff's aim was good, and he managed to cut off one of his limbs. Slenderman's left arm disappeared into the darkness. Jeff fell into one of the graves, barely able to read his family's name. Anger washed over him, and in an instant he charged the Slenderman with incredible speed. Jeff's knife moved deftly against the pale-skinned being. Slenderman escaped into the forest. "Come on, I'm not done with you yet. I want to help you sleep. You look very tired." Filled with unimaginable rage, he chased Slenderman into the woods. He stumbled. A bruised Jeff desperately searched for his knife. Had he dropped it? He lit a pocket lighter to search for it. Slenderman appeared before him. Though he seemed wounded, Slenderman was still strong. Jeff threw the lighter to the ground while desperately trying to find his weapon. Bad luck wanted Jeff to stop where the whiskey bottles had been broken before. In a matter of seconds, everything started to burn. Jeff tried to run away from the fire, but Slenderman threw Jeff against a tree with large branches. Jeff had been cruelly impaled by a long branch. Blood gushed from his mouth as he screamed in pain. Slenderman fled from the flames, leaving Jeff to burn. The fire surrounded Jeff. His end had come.
A forest fire has broken out in the local area. The cause hasn't yet been discovered. Researchers are studying the remains of the forest. The fire has been extinguished. In other news, young Sarah Burgess is missing. She was last seen in the vicinity.
Mark turned off the television, sat on the sofa and said to Julia, his wife, "Honey, they've put out the fire and there's a girl missing. Shall we go over there and see how we can help?" Can we do it another time? I'm a little busy right now, Mark. Besides, if the police can't find that girl, what are we going to do? Julia protested. Come on, I'm curious. 5 minutes. Okay, but only 5 minutes. Mark and Julia left the house towards the burned forest. Something moved towards them. It looked like something human. He was severely burned and wore an unnatural smile on his face. He was completely white and his hair was singed. They approached him and Mark yelled, "Hey, do you need any help?" The man quickly moved towards the couple. He pulled out a large knife covered in red liquid. "Not me, but I can see that you need a little help getting to sleep." Jeff put the knife to the man's neck, who fell to the ground. His wife began to scream. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it. And if you want to see more Draw My Life videos, subscribe to our channel. See you in the next episode!